the most significant information is actually over here at Verbove. So there is geolocation of Ukrainian forces over at this forest region here, and they were bombarded by Russian artillery. This is geolocated by Deep State UA, and this shows that the Ukrainians actually have arrived at this location. They managed to come to this position, and this is actually also reported by I think Surya Maps. They say that the Ukrainian forces managed to cross the main defense line and reach the outskirts of Verbove, and then the Russians managed to repel the attack and push them back to the other line. But I think this is actually not the right way to actually report this. It's not the right information, because if you actually look at the defense line over here, the trench line is very interesting. The trench line for the Russians is actually here along the road, and then they have another one starting all the way from here and then stretch all the way towards the southwest. In between these two, there is actually no trenches. So the Russians probably expected that this area is not so easily penetrated. Maybe they have some guard posts around here, some additional smaller trenches along the forest, and expected to be able to hold this position. But given because the Ukrainians have been concentrating their attack, they are doing very huge infantry attacks. The Ukrainians are able to attack all these positions. They manage to shell all these trenches and force the Russians to withdraw from all these positions. And as the Russians are unable to hold all these forward positions, as the Ukrainians are attacking them or shelling them, they actually can rush through. They can just drive very quickly along the road, and they will be able to penetrate through. As you can see, the trench line is actually a little bit of a distance. It is, I believe, rifle distance. There's probably some Russian positions, but if you can suppress these positions, the Ukrainians can actually drive through very quickly, and that's probably what they did. And all the way to this forest region, they probably come here, unloaded, and actually walk by foot towards this in this forest region to entrench themselves. And the Russians probably have positions within the forest and along here in the forest line, and but probably they are not so close. The Russians probably caught by surprise. They basically just use artillery strike, and so this is not exactly a breakthrough in the sense of they broke the defense line. Is rather they actually just went through the very one hole. That hole is very big. So they went through that big hole and managed to come all the way to Verbove. However, this can also be a very big weakness. So because the Ukrainians can basically just penetrate and push the Russians out in this direction. But anyway, that's the main big news, I believe, over at the Orikhiv sector. And the fighting is reported towards the Verbove. This is acknowledged by the Russian Defense Ministry and Deep State UA. And there is also another big development is over on the eastern part of Novo-Prokopivka. The Ukrainian forces has been geolocated to be at this position. According to the information by Deep State UA, they show that the Russians launched a suicide drone at Ukrainian infantry along the forest line around here. And which also shows that the Ukrainians have actually penetrated further deeper towards the main defense line along here, just off Novo-Prokopivka. So the Ukrainians continue their attack here, and this attack has been acknowledged by Ryba and as well as Surya Maps. But over at Robotyne, situation is not so rosy for the Ukrainians. They are still stuck at Robotyne with fighting still in the southern part of the town, with the Ukrainians using small squads of infantry trying to secure the town, the southern part of the town, but they are constantly bombarded by Russian artillery, according to pro-Russian source Ryba. And the entire situation over in this sector has been getting more and more critical for the Russians, and as a result, we have information from Myroshnikov, the pro-Ukrainian source, reporting that the Russians are deploying additional reserves in the settlement of Novo-Prokopivka. Okay, I should change another color. Novo-Prokopivka, and this is actually Ilchenkove, Verbove, and also over here at this fortress position of Ocheretovate. So anyway, so basically is a strengthening of this entire area. The units allegedly are the mechanized and the airborne units, and there is also information that these airborne units are not supposed to be from this front line. So the pro-Ukrainian side are claiming that this is actually an indication that the reserve forces that is currently in this position is insufficient, that they are actually calling units from other fronts to come and reinforce, but this cannot be corroborated. So that's all for the situation around Robotyne. There is fighting being reported at Novoporovska. This is DPA UA acknowledging the geolocation by Dnipro. So because of this geolocation, DPA UA actually reported that infantry has been spotted east of Novoporovska, and this is where they actually talk about this. Actually, this is wrong information. This is Novoprokopivka. Oh my god. So this is wrong information. Ignore this. This never happens. Okay, forget it about this. Moving on to over at Velika Novosilka sector. Over at this sector here, there is some development mainly over on the western part of this Staromayorsky. Over in the Pryyutne region, despite there's no fighting over here, the fighting actually occurs in the northern part of Pryyutne, but particularly actually in the north and northeast. So Russia's position previously was around like this, along this water body. The Ukrainians have seemingly captured this entire area here. The Russians have been forced into a withdrawal, probably to the next line of defense, probably along all these forest lines. And the reason is because we have geolocation of Ukrainian forces over at this position and this position. So at these two positions, we shows that the Ukrainians may have already captured at least this forest line and this forest line region. The Russians may still have these lines, maybe, but maybe very unlikely, at this moment, given the tide of war over at this region here at the northeastern part of Pryyutne. And over at the Urozhaine region, we have geolocation just north of Zaporizhzhia Bazania on the other side of the river, of the Mokryali River. The video shows that the Ukrainian forces capturing some Russian forces in this forest region here in the southwestern part of Urozhaine. This shows actually two major things. The first thing is that it actually confirms that the Russians actually still have positions around this area here, which means they did not withdraw entirely south of the river. So this is number one. But number two is that the Ukrainians actually are also conducting an offensive operation to clear out the Russian forces in this area here, and it seems to be a little bit successful as the Ukrainians actually push this in this area here. It's unclear based on this footage that the Russian forces in this forest here is entirely cleared out, because while on the map it looks small, but actually if you try to imagine the size of a person, this entire forest is still pretty big, and it will take some time to clear up this entire force. Not to mention there might be possibility that there might be some kind of crossing around this area here that we are not seeing from this dated satellite imaging. Otherwise, we actually have no more fighting being reported around this area here in the Urozhaine and even towards Staromlinivka. So that's